Now then, guys, Quinn's Dude here. We're going to do another heavy album today. This one, though, the influence was absolutely huge and is still being felt today. So stick around, let's get into it. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining once again. Quick bit of the usual housekeeping. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. That way you know whenever I upload new content. If you enjoy this video, then please, down below is the thumbs up, hit that. And any comments about the album or about the channel, please leave them below as well. Today's video is actually jumping into the 1001 albums You Must Hear Before You Die book once again. This is arguably one of the heaviest albums in the book. It's also an album that Rolling Stone put at number 10 in their top 100 heavy metal albums of all time, which was a list published in 2017. I am, of course, talking about Vulgar Display of Power by the mighty Pantera. Vulgar Display of Power was released on February the 25th in 1992 and has gone on to sell over 2 million albums in the US alone. A couple of genres attached to Vulgar Display of Power. It's arguably the first groove metal album and also thrash metal as well. A lot of the time that Pantera discussed, particularly this album, this is their second major label record. The first was 1990's Cowboys from Hell, which is almost as good as Vulgar are, in my opinion. Vulgar kind of filled this void that was going on in metal, and there's a lot of talk about how 90s metal needed Pantera. And I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm not sure if 90s metal knew what it needed. It was still, there was a lot going on and a lot of things going off into different directions, and it kind of diversifying, and a lot of your kings of the 80s thrash scene were going off in different ways. But once Vulgar Display of Power hit and came into the mix, then there was no denying that it was fresh, it was exciting, and it just brought a whole new sound and type of brutality. For me, Vulgar Display of Power is where it's like a perfect storm of all of Pantera's influences come together in the best way. There are arguments that tends to be between sort of 3 or 4 of their albums, which is the fans' favorite, but this one tends to sort of win out. What you've got is the sort of thrashing aggression and attack of Metallica. You've got the groove and feel and swing of Black Sabbath. You've got the kind of showiness, especially in the guitar playing of like Van Halen and Kiss, which is a huge influence on 2 of the members, why they started playing music in the first place. And yeah, it all just comes together. No better example than this on opener and actually first single, Mouth for War. Mouth for War is just an absolutely unbridled way to just come out the gates. Mouth for War really announced a now freshly, completely shaven-headed frontman Phil Anselmo as kind of the most hardcore, and I mean the genre hardcore, most hardcore style frontman in metal, and his voice is just he still has to be classed as one of the best vocalists that's ever picked up a microphone in the genre of metal. Then you go into the slower but no less heavy A New Level, which is arguably one of my favorite Pantera tracks, period. The groove in that, and the way that the rhythm section, I mean, you can say this about any Pantera track, the way that drummer Vinnie Paul and bass player Rex Brown lock in, they've got to be, they're one of the most formidable rhythm sections, so tight but so loose at the same time. Just a joy to behold, and it never ceases to make me smile. We have to mention the track Walk, which was an accidental track that's based around that one main riff that everyone knows. Even people who aren't into metal or know who Pantera are hear this song and go, oh yeah, I've definitely heard that. I mean, what a cool song. I mean, it's become so ubiquitous that now some guitar shops, you know, where it used to, they banned Stairway to Heaven, people trying out guitars were not allowed to play Stairway to Heaven, Enter Sandman, or the riff to Walk by Pantera. Absolutely great track. Love the solo in this. That's one thing. I mean, Dimebag Darrell's, you don't need to, if you know Pantera, you don't need to say that his solos are again, like everything about him and the band, are so unique and so one of a kind. His solos are almost like mini songs themselves. Fucking Hostile is an absolutely raging track, and it kind of reminds me of it could have been on something, it could have been on Master of Puppets by Metallica. It almost moves along a bit more like Damage Incorporated. Again, the vocal performance in this is so good, and this is a song that if you've got this playing in your headphones and someone decides to mess with you, then they're not going to have a very good day. This Love is a one of the best sort of metal ballad style tracks ever committed to tape. Starts really gentle, and of course it gets really heavy, and then goes sort of quieter again, and then, you know, really lets all hell loose. Following on from that, there's arguments about what is seen as the stronger half of the album. In my opinion, you've got, you know, the album is so front loaded with songs that people know, and they're so synonymous but with Pantera and this album, but then the you know, tracks 6 to 11 have their own set of fans, and I definitely fall into that. These are mainly all about sort of they're a bit more like By Demons Be Driven is kind of a bit more of offbeat, weirder, you know, unsettling track, really good. But the rest of this album tends to be more about just the groove. If you want groove in your metal that just picks you up and throws you to the other side of the room whilst making you, you know, want to move, you know, tracks like Live in a Hole and Regular People are just they're just infectious. The album actually ends on another ballady track called Hollow, which is a really interesting way to end it. Have to mention the track midway through the album called Rise. Rise for me really stands out as well because of the vocal delivery. The way that it I mean, the riff is kind of this really groovy stop-start riff, and the way Anselmo just delivers the lines is fantastic and just gets lodged in your head. It would be remiss of me to not mention the job on production and mixing by Terry Date. Terry Date, can we just admit that Terry Date is basically the best metal producer ever, rock and metal? Just look at the list of albums and bands he's done. There's some bands that just never ever, you know, work with anyone else really, for the most part, Deftones being one of them, and Pantera. The mix on this album is so, especially for 1992, it was, I mean, people talk about the Black Album by Metallica being ahead of its time and loud and clear and crisp. I mean, this is mental. Just the clarity it has, but the force that it comes out at you, and everything sounds amazing. You've got Dimebag's really ultra scooped, you know, guitar. The bass and the drums, they have their own space whilst locking in together. The vocals really sort of, you know, front and center. For as much as I've gone on about how heavy and brutal it is, there is a lot of melody and a lot of hooks, and that's what made Pantera so accessible at the time and successful, was the fact that they weren't going as maybe as commercial as, say, other heavy bands were going at the time, but they also weren't doing the going to the extremes of, say, the kind of burgeoning death metal scene at the time, which was really taking off. They kind of just were in this their own lane. So that's it, guys. This one has been an absolute joy to do. I promise we'll do something less extreme next time. But for now, that's it for this one. Stay rad.